Paul Radice is back. Angels Hatchery in Florida. We've talked in the past about the amazing kinds of African cichlid fish that you've been importing since the dawn of time, or nearly. But you also do incredible work with tortoises, Paul. You and your wife Judith, who've had Angels Hatchery going for half a century, basically, right? It's half a century.
Yes, yes, a little bit over, yes.
That's really cool. Talk about tortoises. People love them. Dr. Doug has two of them. I visited them at his house on the Keys. And when ZooMed goes to the big trade shows, they have a kind of a little tortoise pasture, and there's always some tortoises there, and people are fascinated. And of course, the big issue with tortoises, and it probably is on your mind a lot, they live a long time. So people want one, or their child wants one. Now the child grows up and goes to high school, college, is gone. And are you still taking care of the tortoise? Probably. Or you send it along to your child's new life. Tell it about tortoises and how they became part of your passion as well.
Okay, again, tortoises. When I was a boy, there were only water turtles. There were no tortoises for sale at 8 years old.
Oh,
So I began with similar, but one is for water, one is for land. So I also had about 100 water turtles when I was a kid, very young, 10 years old, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And when the tortoises became available, the land turtles, I just thought that was the greatest thing in the world because they had never been available before. So back in 1972, there was an importer of tortoises out of South America. It was a very famous place back then. And
okay.
that's how I got started. I bought some big breeders. I bought some young ones. I just bought a whole bunch of them and had a separate section on one of my fish farms in Miami where we began producing and keeping tortoises from South America, Asia, Europe, and especially the African tortoises. Uh,
Wow. I
yeah,
didn't even know there were so many different continents, if you
oh,
will, not to mention countries,
all of them.
where tortoises live and then can be brought to live in the United States. When
Yeah,
you say fish farm, describe how big your facility is, because you also sell directly to people, not just wholesalers, right?
yeah, yeah. We have a retail facility also. Yeah, we are the fish farm that we are currently operating out of is approximately 2 acres, which is
Of water.
yeah, of water. It's not considered a very big fish farm, but it's what they consider to be a high intensity grow out facility because it has additional water movement and a tremendous amount of aeration. So you can take one of our tanks and it could produce as many fish as some entire farms because
Wow.
yeah, because of the extra oxygen. See, fish they can really live in dirty water. They can't live in water low of oxygen. They just
Okay.
like people, just like any animal, they die. We realized that, and that by increasing the oxygen level, you could increase the densities, and the fish are just perfectly happy. And 90% of the calls we get where people's fish are in trouble, a lot of it is due to low dissolved oxygen in the water. So
Oh,
having extra aeration in the water becomes very, very important. By the way, you mentioned Dr. Doug early on here. He's a
yes.
very good friend of mine. He's helped us a tremendous amount throughout the years with our tortoise projects. And these are all kinds of tortoises from India, from Europe, from South America, from North America, and especially from Africa. I actually brought along a friend of mine here.
Oh, yes, please. Well, I'd like to meet your friend.
Oh yeah, this is my friend Albert.
Oh my God. Albert, you have a face like a little kitten. Oh my God, he's
Thank you.
just
Thank you.
lovely.
Thank you very much.
Albert talks too, and say hello.
Thank you, Dr. Doug, for all your help.
So Albert helps. Now we developed. This is an albino sulcata from Africa. We developed the first albino strain of this animal. We bought a baby albino animal that was imported. It was found in Africa, imported to the United States, and we bought it. We bought that in approximately 1980. We grew it for 8 years, produced it with 5 other females, and then took their babies, sent the blood off to get the DNA checked to make sure they had the albino gene from the father, which they all did, the albino chromosome. And that's how it started. And then we use those for production today. Those there were originally 42 babies. We use those, and we also have albino to albino production. And this is a turtle that was never seen before, never existed.
How incredible.
Yeah, and
Because there was this one, if you will, nature's freak.
Yes, it was
found in Africa.
Yeah, we were very lucky to have come in contact with it. A very good friend of mine was running his own tortoise project up in the middle of the state. And he, in cooperation with his business and his partners, brought in the only baby albino. And,
wow.
and I had been dealing with them on other tortoises and animals, and they gave me a call and they told me what they had. And
I'll be darned. Now, does he have red eyes, as albinos sometimes?
Yeah, for it to be albino,
I see that. Yeah,
it has to have a red eye.
Wow.
Now, there are black-eyed white tortoises now. They're called ivory, and
okay,
but the albino is much more rare, and for people who want them, much more desirable.
So let's talk about why people want something rare. What is that about humans? It's good because you did it as a science project. You and your wife are just, nuts about things that swim and scuttle, or whatever it is that a turtle does.
Whatever it is they do.
Scuttling. But why do people want something? Because no one else has it?
I think that's part of the reason for sure. It's probably a variety or combination of reasons. And that I think you hit it on the head there, because nobody else has it, or some people are just so enamored by the idea of a white turtle, a bright white turtle.
Yeah.
We have other forms of white turtles here too, water turtles, albino, just bright white with red eyes. It has to have red eyes to be considered an albino. Anyway, and they're also, the tortoises are very long lived. 150 years is nothing uncommon. And so, people get into them. Their kids have them. They hand them down. And
it's a legacy, like a piece of antique furniture, but it's young.
Exactly. That's exactly correct.
That's really quite amazing. Now, albinos in a lot of animals are unhealthy. I'm saying this, I'm not Dr. Doug Mader. I don't have a science degree, but I know a bit about things. So if it's a recessive gene and you're breeding recessive genes to each other, does it make them have a weakened immune system? Is their life shorter? Are they more at risk for certain illnesses or not?
It doesn't seem to be in tortoises, because these things, they're as hardy, as fast.
Wow.
They come to you when they see you coming, they know that you mean food. They come right to you. They'll follow you around.
Wow.
There's a lot of things that go on with a lot of animals that tortoises seem to be resistant to, including the albinos. A lot of people say they don't see as well, or the sun affects their eyes. Not so. They're as hardy as can be, Tracy.
Yeah. Well, one of them made it, right, in Africa, which has to be pretty harsh conditions.
Right.
Nobody's coddling them like you are. You know, they're like fending for themselves, hoping to get something for lunch, get a sunburn. So they don't get a sunburn.
That was probably the luckiest turtle in the world at the time. And just coincidentally, the first albino Aldabra tortoise was found last year. Just coincidentally, the only one. So there's only one albino Galapagos tortoise. Did I say Aldabra? Galapagos tortoise was found last year.
No kidding.
Yeah. So now that animal, it would not be able to reproduce for probably another 15 to 20 years. Because it needs to be a mature animal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how long you have to wait. You said you had to wait 8 years.
8 years, yeah. Different tortoises have different periods where they become sexually mature. The African tortoise, it's 8 years. The Galapagos, since it grows to be much, much bigger, it takes longer for its system to become advanced or mature.
That makes sense. Makes logical sense. So you waited your 8 years. Here's this little white baby. And you have other tortoises you're going to breed him to, because you're taking a risk, right? They might not throw albino babies, but how long does it take for you to know what color the babies are? What's the gestation period?
what I did was once they bred with the common form, once his name was Norman, I still have him. He's 130 pounds and he's a big boy.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, he's outside. I can't put him on camera, but anyway, Norman's babies there were 42 of them, and those are the ones we sent off to the University of Florida the University of Georgia in Savannah, and we got to confirm that they all had the same blood they all had Norman's albino chromosomes. We knew that we were dealing with albino, what they call heterozygous for albinoism, a common looking animal, but having the blood of the albino. So what that does is the production from those 42, you get the probability is 1 out of 4 albino, red-eyed albino, 1 out of 4 common, which you wouldn't know, and then 2 out of 4 heterozygous, which you wouldn't know. You don't know if you're looking at a common or one that has albino blood because they all look the same. Other than that 1 out of 4 albino, then you know that you have 2 heterozygous animals that produced with each other. Because if you had just 1 heterozygous and a common, you would get no albinoism. You have to, there has to be an albino.
But it's recessive. So was it incest? In a ridiculous word to use about tortoises, but can tortoises from the same mother make babies if they've got the right genes and there's no problem with?
No problem. One of the advantages perhaps that we had was that we had been creating albino with the first albino fish, the African cichlids we spoke.
Oh.
We had been producing and creating the first albino of many varieties of African cichlids that no one had ever seen before, including the albino duboisi, which is still considered very rare, an African fish. So knowing the formula, that was the whole thing. We knew the formula, and they're cold-blooded animals, just like the tortoises and reptiles. Fish are cold-blooded. So the formula was the same. And of course, I had Dr. Doug to lean back on if I ever had any questions. He always had the answers.
So cool. And he shares your same passion for tortoises and fish.
Oh, yeah, he has some of my tortoises.
He does? So I met one of your tortoises at me because I met his tortoises.
Yeah, the big African tortoises. One of those at least came from here that I know of.
Nice. That's nice, keeping it all in the family. And speaking of which, is a family, you and your wife are scientists, aren't you? You're genetic scientists. You're pushing the boundaries. No one else wants to do this. You're doing it not because it's a random science experiment. It's because it's what people like.
It's a labor of love. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we are basically practicing, if you want to say scientists, that's what we are. Yeah.
That's neat. You know, it's neat that in your own life, in your own world, in your own fish farm, you can create an environment that is healthy for the fish and is so successful in bringing out another generation, if they're considered generations in tortoises, I guess. But is Albert a grandson of Norman's, or?
Albert is a great grandson of Norman's, correct.
Nice. It's really quite amazing that you can play God in a very benign way, in a loving way. It's not playing God just for the heck of it, like people in a laboratory with smoke coming out of their ears. You're like, I think we can do this. It's what people will really get a kick out of. And then the animals are healthy. That's the other thing. Albinos, whether it's in horses or dogs who weren't meant to be white, like a German Shepherd. And you're talking about the animals don't do well. Now, maybe nobody has created them on purpose, or maybe they have. But in your case, the albinos have all the strength and hardiness and long-livedness of the commons. Now I know to call anything that isn't albino a common. I've learned the lingo, Paul.
Yes, you certainly have. Yeah, yes, and what you said is exactly correct. They seem to have all of the strength and characteristics. They're hardy. Extremely hardy.
Nice. So let's say I see Albert, and I must say, I think Albert is very fetching. I want a white tortoise. How do I go about it? Do I call up Angels Hatchery and say, is Albert for sale, or Albert's sister, or his mother?
Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Albert. Yes, you're darling. He's so darling.
Oh, you're darling too, honey. Thank you very much. I have to go back to my box now. Thank you.
Yeah, we taught him how to talk. Now that took some time, but Yes, you can certainly call it. Right now, we have what we do with the tortoises is we incubate their eggs because in South Florida, the ground is too humid to hatch out African
Oh,
desert tortoises. Their air has to be
I,
very dry. So we have incubators set up just for them that are set to the exact temperature that would create males and females, temperature sexing them, and at the same time,
wait a minute. Based on the temperature of how the eggs are going to hatch, determines whether they come out male or female?
that's correct. Yes.
No. How
Oh,
did you figure that out?
I guess I had read about it many years ago, and we had,
Wow.
for us, it makes no difference whether they come out male or female because we're not going to keep them growing for 8 years and reuse them, which we've already
Right.
done, but rather allow the person who's buying them to have a chance to have a pair or to have random group because even though they can be temperature sexed to about 95% correctness, never 100%. So
Right.
I could say, yeah, they were temperature sex for males or females, but the bottom line is you could never guarantee that because it's not a perfect science with those animals. The animal's inside the egg; it's going to decide whatever it wants to be, and part of
Wow.
that is temperature sex.
That's just really cool. That
Yeah,
is some really cutting edge animal husbandry. It's a little warmer and you get a boy, a little cooler and you get a girl, or vice versa.
yes,
That's
yes,
pretty neat. And it has to mimic the African desert, which is also pretty cool.
yeah,
I don't mean cool like temperature wise. It's
yeah,
just
no,
really exciting that you know all this and you do it, and out come these animals that people are dying to have. They cherish them, and it becomes a family heirloom eventually. No matter how young the person is when they get them, that
yes.
tortoise is outliving them by a good bit.
We have people call us who bought tortoises 30 and 40 years ago and tell us how big they are, how much they weigh, send us
Wow.
pictures of them, and
Oh, nice.
yeah,
That's so great. So you have an ongoing relationship with the humans too.
that's
For
great.
anybody that wants some incredible tortoises and some really cool fish, and in the future we're going to be talking about koi, which everybody knows what koi are, and it turns out that Angels Hatchery, you built your whole business on the back of koi originally.
Yes,
So you know an awful lot and you have a lot of choices. I'm thinking that if I didn't live in Vermont, I'd be very tempted to start to have a koi pond just to have some Angels Hatchery of some of your little babies or your adults, whatever it is that whatever's the best thing to have. I think what you're doing is really terrific.
we have quite customers in Vermont because koi are cold water fish. They live under the ice. They hibernate in the winter, and
Well, my father in Connecticut, just suburban Connecticut, used to have koi, and he
yes,
had a bit of a lily pond that was cement, not
we're in Connecticut. Was this?
in Westport, not anywhere very exotic, and they went into the mud and stayed in the bottom and wintered that way.
Right. Yeah, that's very common. Yeah, I have a brother just north of Westport. He's in Danbury, Connecticut. And I have
Oh,
another.
yeah, right there.
Yeah, I have several brothers and relatives in Connecticut, a dozen of them at least.
Are
Anyway,
they good customers?
my relatives,
Yes, probably not.
no, they don't really. No, actually, I've sent my brothers livestock before, and but there was no money involved. It was just,
Right. Just,
here.
but you didn't do it as an April Fool gag, a hundred
No,
pound
no,
tortoise and say,
no, they knew they were coming.
okay, good. It's wonderful to meet you. I look forward to a future conversation about koi. What you and your wife are doing and have been doing is really remarkable. I
My
bet there's a
pleasure.
lot of scientists out there and zookeepers, et cetera, who would be very envious for the creations you've brought to life. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.